Welcome to the Deep Dives, everybody. Ready to get our feet wet. Today's topic, canals.
Canals.
But not just those pretty pictures you see on postcards.
Right.
We're going deep into how they work, how far back they go, and why they were such a big deal for, well, civilization itself.
You could say that, yeah.
And lucky for us, we've got a canal expert here to break it all down. Someone who's, navigated all those historical twists and turns.
Happy to be here.
So, first things first. For folks who might not be, engineering buffs, what exactly is a canal?
Good question. The simplest way to put it, it's a waterway. But it's man-made.
Okay, but we're not just talking ditches here, right?
No, not at all. They're for transportation, of course, moving all sorts of stuff. But also water management and even getting fresh water to cities.
So pretty vital stuff throughout history, then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about Mesopotamia, way back, like 4000 BC. Canals were how they irrigated their crops. Without them, no crops, no food, no civilization as we know it.
Right.
And that same story plays out again and again. The Egyptians, the Romans, all relied on canals.
Okay, but how did they get those boats uphill?
Wow.
Water flows down, right?
Ah, that's where it gets really clever. They came up with locks.
Locks.
Like watery elevators. A boat goes in, the gates close, and they adjust the water level to lift it up or lower it down.
So ingenious.
It really is.
You mentioned earlier that canals weren't just for transportation. What about, managing water? Are there different types for different jobs?
Yep. We've been talking about the kind for moving boats and cargo, navigation canals, but there's also those meant for irrigation, like in Mesopotamia, or for getting water right into cities, like the Roman aqueduct.
Those massive stone structures?
Exactly. Carrying water over huge distances. Imagine seeing one back then, a canal up high, like it's floating over a valley. Incredible.
It really makes you appreciate the engineering they had way back when.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just the Romans, right? You said Mesopotamia. What about other civilizations?
Oh, tons. The Chinese were amazing canal builders. They had the Grand Canal, it's still around today.
Really?
Over 1,700 kilometers long. Parts of it are from the 5th century BC. It connected their empire, helped them trade, communicate. It was vital.
Unifying a whole empire with a waterway, centuries before cars and trains and all that.
Exactly. Canals weren't just about moving stuff around. They were woven into the very fabric of these civilizations.
So canals have this incredibly long history, but how did they change over time? Any big breakthroughs?
Oh, definitely. The 18th and 19th centuries during the Industrial Revolution in Europe, that was huge for canals.
The Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. Suddenly they needed to move tons of stuff, raw materials, finished goods, much faster and cheaper than they could with horse-drawn carts.
Mass production, rapid growth, all that.
Exactly. Canals were the perfect solution. Take the Bridgewater Canal in England. It was for coal, and it changed everything. Picture it, boats full of coal, pulled by a single horse. One horse could move 30 tons on a canal.
Wow. That's way more efficient than any cart.
It was a game changer. And that success led to this huge boom in canal building all over Britain. They called it Canal Mania.
Makes sense. Canals were basically the backbone of the Industrial Revolution, letting industries grow and cities expand.
That's a great way to put it. And we haven't even gotten to the cool engineering stuff, like inclined planes for boats and massive projects like the Panama Canal.
Lots more to explore then. You've definitely got me hooked, and I bet our listeners are too. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're still cruising along, exploring the world of canals. Last time, we went way back to their beginning, saw how they helped build empires, and even power the Industrial Revolution.
Quite the journey.
Now, I'm curious, are canals still relevant today? I mean, with trains, planes, trucks, all that, do we still need canals?
You might think they're a thing of the past, right? Like something from a history book.
I kind of did, yeah.
But actually, some of those big ship canals, like the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, they're busier than ever. Oh yeah, they're like the superhighways of the sea, moving a huge amount of global trade, connecting continents.
So those massive ones, sure. But what about other ways canals are still relevant?
Well, think about the environment. Everyone's talking about sustainability, going green, right?
Right.
Canals are actually way better than trucks or planes, environmentally speaking. Less fuel, fewer emissions, all that.
So they could be part of the solution for a greener future.
Absolutely. And it's not just about moving stuff around. Canals can help us manage water better, too.
Oh, how so?
Imagine using canals to move water from places that have too much to places that don't have enough.
Like during droughts.
Exactly. Or think about cities. They can use canals to deal with stormwater runoff, prevent flooding, that sort of thing.
So they're kind of this multi-purpose tool. It makes you wonder why we don't use them more.
I think people are starting to realize how useful they can be. There's a lot more interest in canal tourism these days, leisurely boat trips, visiting those cute towns along the
I've
waterways.
seen pictures. They look lovely.
And some cities are even putting canals right into their urban planning.
What, like in the middle of the city?
Yeah, they create these green spaces, help with water management, make the city a nicer place to live.
And I read somewhere that they're even using canals to put in fiber optic cables.
That's right. It's pretty cool how they're taking this old technology and using it for something so modern.
Adaptable, right?
Totally. But there's even more to it. Engineers are always coming up with new ways to build and operate canals.
Like what?
Well, they're experimenting with new materials, stronger and more sustainable, to make the canals last longer, like super strong fabrics to line them and prevent leaks.
A high-tech makeover for canals.
And when it comes to running them, they're using sensors and computer models to control the water flow and make everything more efficient. It's like giving them a brain.
Wow, technology really is changing everything, even canals.
Mhm.
So with all these advancements, what's next for canals? Any exciting projects in the works?
Oh, definitely. There's one that's been getting a lot of attention, the Nicaragua Canal.
Nicaragua.
It's a huge project, could be as big as the Panama Canal. If they build it, it could change global trade routes, impact the economy, even have geopolitical effects.
Sounds massive.
It is, and there are definitely some environmental concerns they need to address.
Right.
Another interesting one is the Seine-Nord-Europe Canal in Europe,
What's that one about?
connecting France to Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands. It shows that canals are still seen as vital infrastructure in the 21st century.
Wow, it's amazing how canals have been around for so long, and they're still shaping our world today. From ancient times to the modern era, they've proven to be incredibly adaptable and resilient.
Absolutely. And they offer so much potential for the future.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've covered a lot of ground in our canal exploration from ancient times to the modern world, but now I'm curious. After all your research and travels, do you have a favorite canal?
Ooh, that's tough. It's like picking a favorite child. But I think I'd have to say the Corinth Canal in Greece.
The Corinth Canal. I've seen pictures. It's that one that cuts right through the rock, isn't it?
Right.
It's only short, though, right?
Yeah, it's only about 6 kilometers long.
Yeah.
But it's just incredible. Imagine this, a canal carved right through solid rock, connecting those two gulfs.
It must be amazing to see a ship going through there with those huge rock walls on either side.
It really is. And it was a massive engineering challenge to build. It took them centuries to get it right. They finally finished it in the late 1800s.
Sounds like a place full of history and engineering marvels. I might have to add that to my travel list. But for our listeners who want to learn more about canals, where should they start?
If you have a local canal, that's the best place to begin. Take a walk along the towpath, watch the boats go by, maybe even take a boat tour. There's nothing like experiencing a canal firsthand to appreciate its history and how it works.
It's like a little adventure right in your own backyard.
Exactly. And you might stumble upon some hidden gems like old pubs, historic bridges, maybe even a working lock.
And I bet there are some great canal museums out there, too.
Oh, for sure. You can learn about how the canal was built, how it affected the local industry, even the lives of the people who lived and worked on the boats. It's a fascinating glimpse into the past.
Speaking of stories, are there any books or documentaries you recommend for canal enthusiasts?
The Canal Age by Charles Hadfield is a classic. It covers canal history all over the world. And if you prefer something visual, the BBC did a great series called Canals, The Making of a Nation.
I'll have to check those out. And of course, there's always the internet.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget about Google Maps. Zoom in on your area or any place you're curious about, and you'll see all these canals crisscrossing the map. You can follow their routes, see the towns and cities they connect. It's a great way to get a sense of their scale and how they shape the landscape.
It's like a virtual canal tour from your computer.
Yeah.
So, to wrap things up, we've talked about the past and present of canals, but what about their future? What role do you see them playing in the years to come?
That's a great question. As we face things like climate change, growing cities, and the need to find more sustainable ways to transport goods, I think canals have a lot to offer.
How so?
Well, they're a much greener option compared to trucks and planes. They can be used to manage water resources, like we talked about earlier, and they even have the potential to generate clean energy through hydropower.
So these ancient waterways might actually hold the key to a more sustainable future.
I believe so. Their story is far from over. In fact, I think the most exciting chapters are still ahead of us.
That's a great way to put it. And on that note of watery wonder and future possibilities, we'll conclude our deep dive into the world of canals. Thanks for joining us on this journey.